Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, InaneDragon, and after the last few videos, we need a palate cleanser. Enter the inimitable this guy.
Because we live in a society of schools that don't teach people the logic.
Now, I don't know about you, but I want to know what led this fellow to his conclusions. I was pretty sure logic is a required channel for all American schools now, with elective offerings in Iseth Original and Godless Cranium. So, join me, if you will, on a journey where Matt Powell will show us how atheists deny historical facts.
It's funny, I was just talking to an atheist the other day, and he didn't know why we were in 2017 AD.
I'll take conversations that never happened for $500, Alex. Now, I'll grant you that you might be dealing with someone young enough to have only ever heard of the current era and before current era terminology, but I sincerely doubt that. And sure, if you mean the more specific question, what does AD mean and what is its origin, I guess that there could be someone ignorant of the fact that it is an initialism for Anno Domini, roughly meaning in the year of the Lord. But seriously, I don't think you've found the one person in the entire United States who doesn't know that we use a calendar based on the birth year traditionally ascribed to Jesus.
You know, and obviously atheists aren't really the most smart people out there. So, you gotta kind of help them along,
I know I'm not all that smart, that's why I'm an engineer and not a physicist, but I also know that ignorance isn't a trait reserved just for us atheists. You made a video trying to claim evolution is bullshit, for crying out loud, so you really should worry about planks before you complain about moats. I know this is supposed to be a homily for your congregation. Humble Christian faces down mean atheist and proves him wrong for the glory of Jesus. But you really need some self-awareness here.
But I remember telling this atheist, I said, do you know why we're in 2017 AD? And he thought about it. He's just, a moment ago, it's funny, he was bragging about how well he knew his history. The Bible goes against history. Okay, why are we in 2017 AD? And he didn't have an answer.
See, I told you this was mean braggart atheist versus humble, smart Christian. Of course, you won't find an answer in the Bible for why we're in 2017 AD, so maybe you should rethink this. The Bible never discusses the Julian calendar, nor the later Gregorian calendar, nor does it say a single word about either of you in 2017 AD, so your question cannot be answered by the Bible. Nor is it a historical question, come to that. It's a question of timekeeping. You're in 2017 AD at the time of that conversation because of the common timekeeping conventions of your country. Jesus, being a Jew, probably would have said that you were in the year 5778, more or less, since the years in the Jewish calendar and the Gregorian calendar don't quite line up perfectly, what with the one being a lunar and the other being a solar calendar.
And the reason we're in 2017 AD is because when Jesus Christ died and rose again from the dead, everybody in Rome saw it. Everybody talked about it. Everybody heard of the gospel. It was being preached to all the nations by the apostles.
Ah! So you don't know history either. AD has nothing to do with the year Jesus was supposedly crucified. That would have been anywhere from 30 to 33 AD. So you're not even right about the event in the Bible being referenced. Also, at the time, no one in Rome saw or heard a thing related to Jesus. The earliest plausible date that I can find for Christians in Rome itself is 49 AD, based on the works of Suetonius. The real reason you could say we had a year 2017 AD is because Julius Caesar reformed the existing Roman calendar to align with the seasons and reduce the need for a fluctuating number of days in a year that predated the Julian calendar. Christianity slowly became the dominant religion in the Roman Empire, particularly during the reign of Constantine, 4th century. It was Constantine who established Sunday as an official day of rest for everyone in the empire, but his original decree applied to all persons of all religions, and it was Constantine's enforcement of the First Council of Nicaea that ultimately led to the Christian adoption of the solar Julian calendar of the Romans over the traditional lunar Jewish calendar of their religious forefathers. This led, in the 6th century, to the Scythian monk Dionysius the Humble to enumerate years in the Julian calendar, starting from the year which he believed Jesus to have been born. To this end, he used the phrase Anno Domini to denote each year since the birth of the Lord. And the phrase gained popularity over time in the Christian world until at last Portugal adopted it in 1422. And thus all nations in Christendom used the AD system. Now, under the Julian calendar, it wouldn't have been 2017. This is because the dating system we use now is a refinement of the Julian calendar introduced by Pope Gregory XIII. His calendar corrected the earlier calendar to better reflect the actual time it takes for Earth to orbit the Sun. In so doing, the equinoxes and solstices would slip less relative to various holy days and feast days recognized by the Catholic Church. If there's one thing religions have been very good for, it's astronomy. They care a lot about getting the timing of events right relative to the motion of stars and planets, and more power to them. However, as we can see here, the death of Christ is only tangentially related to the reason that it is 2017 AD when you record that conversation. It has far more to do with Roman calendar practices, the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, and nomenclature preferred by monks, historians, and popes in the centuries after the events depicted in the Bible. There's a lot more to dig into the history of why we have the Gregorian calendar and the terminology Anno Domini, but none of it will be found anywhere in the Bible. Sorry, Matt. But even if the Jesus mythicists were correct and there was no Jesus, the Gregorian calendar would still have required that conversation to have happened in 2017 AD.
And the Bible says that there was many infallible proofs of Jesus' resurrection. Many infallible proofs. It doesn't say just many little proofs. It says infallible, which means that, infallible means it's a matter of fact. It's a matter of fact that he rose again from the dead, and it was for you and I.
Well, I guess we can see that, since infallible does actually mean incapable of making mistakes or being wrong. However, here's the problem. That's the claim, not the proof of the claim. What are these infallible proofs, and what demonstrates them to be incapable of being wrong? You're skipping right over the part where you actually defend your claim.
These atheists, they don't think about these things. You bring it up to them, and they just don't even, oh, that never crossed my mind.
You say that, but on average, the atheists that I know seem more knowledgeable of what the Bible says than you do. And your entire argument is ahistorical and wrong. Jesus' execution is independent of the adoption of the Gregorian calendar or the use of Anno Domini as an era, because Anno Domini derives from the presumed date of Jesus' birth based on late 1st century fables, and any solar calendar would have inevitably honed in on the correct orbital periodicity as the Gregorian calendar did. Just ask the Mayans. Their solar calendar is about as accurate as the Gregorian calendar with zero Jesus involved. Seriously, I have a hard time believing a single thing you say at this rate. Maybe I'm just too biased to recognize the level of ignorance possessed by some people, but I can't imagine anyone, regardless of their creed, being as moronic as the straw man that you have to fight to make yourself look good. Is this where we're at? Tilting at windmills? Well, that's that, I suppose. Matt's got enough crazy ideas that you'll be seeing him again soon. But for now, I'm InaneDragon, and if you've enjoyed this inanity, consider subscribing for more of the same. As always, take a minute to rate and comment down below. For those who absolutely hate the idea of building wealth themselves, consider joining my small but growing number of patrons over on Patreon. They have my eternal thanks and continue to provide the funds for the slow death of my liver, as well as access to scientific journals and editing software. Again, thank you all. And regardless, have a good night.